Good morning and welcome to our Genesis Client Services webinar. My name is Amber Neely. I'm the Assistant Clinical Director here at Genesis. I'm also a women's and children's therapist, and I'm going to be going through this webinar with you today. Before we get started, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping items and then we're going to jump right into our topic. So just a reminder that this presentation is for educational purposes only. It's not to be used in lieu of therapy. So also please consider your own situation and safety concerns prior to putting into practice any of the ideas that are talked about today. I'm going to be talking about a lot of general ideas, and so just being mindful of your own situation. Okay, so I want to talk about safety. So please be sure to watch this in a safe place where only safe people can hear it. So that might mean that you're wearing headphones while you're watching this to ensure that nobody can hear what you're watching. Also remember to clear your browser history after watching the video if you suspect that somebody is monitoring your phone or computer. If you're watching with us live on Zoom and you need to leave, you'll need to click Leave Meeting, and then you'll need to exit out of the Zoom website as well. So you have to do it a couple of times to fully get out of Zoom. Regarding confidentiality, again, if you're watching with us live on Zoom, we ask that you don't use the chat feature. If you use that chat feature, your name and comment will be seen by anybody watching this live video. And also we upload all of these to our YouTube channel, and so it would be seen there as well. Regarding our YouTube channel, if you shouldn't be able to comment on there, but if for some weird reason you are, we just ask that you don't comment there either, because if you do, again, your name and comment will be seen by everyone else who watches this video. Regarding crisis and support, if you are in crisis, you need help with emergency safety planning, or you're looking for emergency shelter due to experiencing domestic violence, specifically intimate partner violence, please call our 24-hour hotline at 214-946-4357. If you're not one of our current clients and you're interested in signing up for counseling, please give us a call at 214-389-7700. If you have any questions about anything that is said in today's webinar, I'm going to leave my contact information at the end of this webinar, along with the two other clinicians that usually do these parenting webinars with me. And so if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly by phone or email, and I am happy to help support you in whatever you're wondering about. Again, we won't monitor any questions or comments left on our YouTube channel, so make sure you contact us directly so we can help you out. Wanted to just show some hotlines here, so go ahead and write these down or take a picture. Again, here's our Genesis Women's Shelter and Support hotline. This is 24 hours. We also have the National Domestic Violence Hotline, so maybe you're not in the Dallas area and you're watching our YouTube channel and you're needing some support. The national hotline is going to be 1-800-799-7233. And they have capabilities to look up resources based on your zip code. And we also have the National Suicide Hotline. So we know that when women experience trauma such as domestic violence and intimate partner violence, there are feelings of hopelessness that come along with that. And sometimes that hopelessness can turn into some thoughts about self-harm or suicidal thoughts. We want you to feel empowered to call and ask for help. So reaching out to the suicide hotline at 1-800-273-8255. You can also call our hotline as well if you're having suicidal thoughts. Okay, so we have been working out of Lundy's book, Lundy Bancroft's book, When Bad Hurts Mom. And so how can this book help you? This is what it looks like. You can find it on Amazon. I will say that it can be a little bit hard to read because he uses some really specific examples in it about domestic violence and things like that. So it can be kind of triggering. So being mindful of that if you do want to read this book on your own. But how can this book help you? So it can help you understand the effects of domestic violence, help your children to heal emotionally. This book can guide mothers in providing children with love, support, and positive role models, even in the midst of domestic violence. I really like this about the book is that it has a whole chapter on like court and custody and CPS and those types of issues. And so helping increasing understanding of those systems and identifying ways to help children feel good about themselves. So lots of really great parts of this book. So we want to just highlight what is the impact of domestic violence. Again, this book is helpful in gaining understanding of how a child's exposure to a man who abuses their mother sends shockwaves through the family. So whenever we're talking about domestic violence in this way, we're talking about threats, verbal abuse, humiliation. This is creating an atmosphere in which the mother is disrespected by the father. She feels silenced. She is bullied or treated like a servant. This is really confusing for a child because that's making them think, oh, well, then my mom maybe doesn't know how to take care of me, or maybe I should be disrespectful to my mom too, because that's behavior that's being modeled. So therefore, it can foster tense relationships between a mother and child, brings a lot of distress. Again, this is really, really confusing. And also can create division amongst siblings. Sometimes we have one sibling that's really aligned with mom and one sibling that's really aligned with dad. Dad tends to use that sibling to create more chaos within the family and maybe even treats the other sibling differently. And so sometimes that can cause a lot of tension and confusion. We also know that children respond to domestic violence in different ways. Some children internalize things. And so maybe they have more somatic symptoms. Their tummy hurts, they have headaches, they have nightmares. And so maybe it doesn't look like something is going on, where other kids might really be acting out and breaking things or yelling or having outbursts. And so the kiddo that's internalizing may feel really triggered by the one that's externalizing. And so that can also create division and tension. Okay, so today we're talking about boundaries. So this is a word that all of us counselors use quite a bit. And so let's define this. A boundary is a limit that we have around our bodies and our minds to protect our safety, our integrity, and our privacy. Our boundaries can be thought of as fences with gates in them that we have control over where the fence is and what the gates do. When you're in a relationship with an abusive person, they do not respect your boundaries. They tend to break those down because they don't have healthy boundaries, okay? And so this can become really tricky and really confusing. There's two types of boundaries. So inherent boundaries, so these are boundaries that are accepted by most cultures as natural. They are there without us having to create them. So our skin outside of our body, right? This is a boundary that we just naturally have. Individual boundaries are boundaries that we create based on what we find necessary to create a safe physical and emotional space for ourselves. So example is maybe I don't want to be tickled, so I'm going to ask you not to touch me. Right, so these are boundaries that we create for ourselves and that we identify. Why are they important? So when boundaries are violated, lots of different things can occur. So you might feel invaded or unsafe. It can create feelings of feeling degraded, confused, having trouble distinguishing what is voluntary from what isn't, feeling lonely, abandoned, not seen or understood, having difficulty trusting people, and this can intensify over time. Also can leave one feeling angry or enraged, becoming extremely defiant. Always consider your safety first before setting boundaries. So we know when there is an abusive partner, the purpose of somebody, the goal of somebody that's abusive is to maintain power and control over the other partner in that relationship. And so sometimes it can feel dangerous, or it can be physically dangerous to set certain boundaries within your relationship. And so that within itself is a huge creates all of these feelings, right? That's really confusing. You're trying to set these boundaries. When you do, you're faced with some potential danger. And so remember, like I said at the beginning, like feel free to contact us for any specific or individualized safety planning regarding setting those boundaries. When we talk about boundaries in children, an abusive parent will start with small boundary violations, right? So it might be like tickling them for too long when they keep saying, please stop. Or it might be something like asking too many questions about their activities, thoughts, or feelings may become overt a year or two down the road. So it starts really small, so you don't really notice it at first, right? Just like we talk about when violence escalates in a relationship, it might start as he called me a name, and now it's gone to some really serious physical assaults. Um, Abusive partners are more likely to sexually abuse their children. So this doesn't mean that every single abusive partner is going to sexually abuse their child. It does mean that they are more likely to, okay? Warning signs to look out regarding boundary violations, secrets. If dad is asking your child to keep secrets from you, lying, seeing family members as possessions. We see this a lot with abusive partners, view their family as their property, not as humans. So confusing love and abuse, not allowing your child to have their own thoughts or beliefs. Sometimes we see abusive partners who want the child to just act like him. They don't want this child to have their own likes or activities or hobbies. They want a little, like a replica of them. And then also diminishing the child's feelings, right? So this might be the child says, I'm scared of this movie. And dad says, you're a crybaby. You shouldn't be scared of this. It's just a movie. Those types of things really sting, especially over time. So what can you do? So teach your child good boundaries and model them for your child. Explain the difference to your child between good secrets and bad secrets, and that it is never okay for an adult to ask a child to keep a bad secret. This is really important and really confusing for kids. Kids tend to see things in a pretty concrete way, and so in their head, they're like, secrets are a lie, and I'm not supposed to lie. And so really helping them understand the differences there, right? It might be that you're asking your child, don't tell your dad that we're going to be staying at Aunt Susie's house because it's not safe for us. That's a good secret, right? Kid's going to maybe be confused because you've already taught them you're not supposed to lie to people. So helping them understand that difference. A bad secret is, dad hitting your child and saying, don't tell your mom that I spanked you today. That's a bad secret, right? Or telling your child not to tell you things about conversations that they had or things like that. So I think it is very important to help a child differentiate between the difference between good and bad secrets, so that if this happens, they know to come to you and say, hey, mom, this person, maybe it's dad or whoever, told me that I wasn't supposed to tell you this. You want them to be able to do that. Explain the difference between good touch and bad touch, teaching your children where their private parts are, who is allowed to touch them, which is no one, right? And helping them identify that, using a metaphor of where you wear your bikini or your bathing suit or your swimming trunks, nobody can touch under there, right? That's kind of helpful for kids to be able to visualize and explaining that. Also, keep your children socially connected. So keeping them connected with whether it's church activities or school activities, keeping them connected with other community resources so that if something does happen and dad said, if you tell mom, I'm going to hurt your mom, well, he didn't say you couldn't tell teacher, so keeping them connected with other social groups in the community. And believe your child. It is not common for children to make up abuse. And so if your child is saying that something happened, believe them, and also be mindful of developmental age and what they're taught. Like, are they talking about a game that they played or is this real life, right? So helping them differentiate that. But believe your children. If a child makes an outcry and they're not believed, that's extremely traumatic for them, and they may never, I hate to say never, but it might lead them to where they don't feel comfortable ever telling the truth again, because they weren't believed the first time. So why would they keep doing it? Again, kids think very black and white. I told the truth, no one believes me. So every time I tell the truth, nobody's going to believe me. This is how their brains work until they're into their 20s. Try to react to disclosures or boundary violations that you witness yourself in a way that's supportive, educational, and calm. So if you see your child violating boundaries or someone violating their or siblings, talk to them. I really have used a lot of times with kids like a boundary bubble, and especially with siblings, some like to play rough and the others might not. And so talking to them about, oh, it looks like you're in his boundary bubble. Can you ask your brother if he wants to be touched before you grab his arm next time, right? Simple things like that. Be verbally and physically affectionate with your child. Keep open lines of communication possible with your children, and always put your children's safety first. Again, if you have any questions about this, you can reach out to us directly. I just wanted to end with this quote and remind you that even just in watching this webinar, you have taken a brave step towards healing for yourself and your family. And remember, as mothers, you hold your children's heart for a short while. You hold your children's hands for a short while, but their hearts forever. So thank you so much for joining us today, or me. Again, I'm Amber Neely. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, and my contact information right there. Charlotte and Jordan also join me in these webinars, and so you have their contact information as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week.